Tēnā koutou, no mai hara mai.
I came to Nelson 10 years ago with the expectation that I'd spend 6 months to a year here, and now I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Nelson Marlborough gives you a good balance between sort of work life and social life. Nelson Hospital is a good size hospital to work at. It's a friendly environment, so you actually know a lot of the people in the hospital that you're working with.
There's quite a lot of good relationships between different specialties.
So there's lots of opportunities for you to develop your career however you want to focus it on.
A disadvantage for patients in bigger services is that they can get turned into a set of individual problems without one person really thinking about them as a human being. This is a fantastic environment to actually be able to practice really good medicine because you have the opportunity to look at the person as a whole.
Yeah, it's just easy to get around. So in Sydney it was always a battle everywhere you wanted to go, and I think that sort of flows on to even the patients. They come into the hospital, they can get a park, and they're quite happy to have a chat and they're quite relaxed.
Lots of restaurants, beautiful beaches. It's an excellent place to raise a family. I have 2 children now. Schools are fantastic. We couldn't be happier living here.
I would say to somebody who is wanting to come and work for Nelson Marlborough Health that they should do it. It's a great place to work, it's a great place to live, and it's a really enjoyable environment to be in.
It's always sunny.
Everything you could ask for.
There's nowhere else in New Zealand I'd want to live.
People come here by choice because it is a fantastic destination, and then they stay because when they realise they've been here for a while they don't want to leave.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Loretta Matheson, RMO Team Lead of Wairau Hospital, and also on the Zoom is Ashton Blake Barlow, PGY1 at Wairau, and Eric Munro, who's a PGY1 at Wairau.
So my name's Gina Hart, and I'm a house officer or first year junior doctor here at Wairau Hospital in Blenheim. Currently I'm on orthopaedics, so it involves rounding with the doctors each morning and coming up with a list of jobs to do for those patients, and then often in the afternoons I head off to theatre to go assist in surgeries. Well, I specifically wanted to come to a hospital like Wairau Hospital because there's no registrars here. So it means that as a house officer you have a really close working relationship with the consultants. And it also means that you get a lot of experience at making decisions and managing patients that maybe you wouldn't get at a bigger hospital. So it's been a very steep learning curve, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Probably about 2 years ago I came to Nelson Marlborough and stayed here for a few summers while I was studying. Absolutely loved the place, loved the people, loved the sites, so I thought, why not work here as a PGY1? And
so one of the good things about the Nelson Marlborough District Health Board is that it's actually staffed really well. So when you want to get leave, as long as you put in sort of adequate time in advance, you usually get it, and it's a pretty rare occasion when you don't get your leave.
I'd say if you're ready to be sort of thrown into it and have to learn things really quickly, but still within a very supportive environment, if you're willing to have a really close working relationship with consultants and not have a registrar, and at the end of that feel like you've learnt maybe what you might have learnt in a year at a bigger centre, but learn that within months at a place like this, then I'd highly recommend coming. And also if you want to come to a place where when you leave the hospital there's just so much to do in the outdoors, and if you like good wine and good food, and also just be in a very relaxed and chilled out town where any stress that you might get from working in the medical world is often waylaid just by the environment that you're in. It's absolutely beautiful up here.
Cool, thanks, Loretta. So yeah, we're a couple of the PGY1s here in Wairoa Hospital, and we've got a bit of a PowerPoint to show you guys. So I'll just share that one. So that's what we look like. So
yeah, smallish wee hospital, pretty well laid out. Everything's all on the same floor. Emergency department, and then you've got pediatrics, obs and gynae, surgical and medicine all flowing down a corridor. So it's, yeah, pretty easy to find your way around. So yeah, this is Ashton, I'm Eric, and yeah, this is both our first year this year.
So there's a little bit of stats just for the hospital. So it's 65 bed hospital, which is one of the smallest ones that you can apply to as a PGY1. I think it is actually the smallest that you can apply to as a PGY1. And that's approximately the population we have, which includes Blenheim and Picton. And yeah, those are the places that are accessible. That's all the stuff that you guys will be having to deal with at the moment, having to come up with your cover letters and your CVs, and you know, we both have to do that, and it can be a little bit daunting and everything, but that's the kind of stuff that the team look for when they're recruiting.
Yeah, definitely try and get in touch for an interview if you can, even if it's not in person. I think they're more than happy to do it over Zoom. I did mine over a phone call last year. Any way to kind of just, you know, have a chat to one of the consultants and, you know, have them be familiar with you so that when your CV comes up, you've got a better chance as well. So yeah.
So there are only 5 places available, so that makes it the smallest place. And being a small hospital, all the runs are fairly general, so there aren't too many specialised subjects, which means that anyone under general medicine basically covers your cardio, your respiratory, your gastro, instead of going to a separate ward, for example. In general surgery / ENT and general surgery / urology, basically anything that's not orthopedics but as a surgical presentation will be a bit under general surgery, which means if you're doing those runs, you get a big variety of presentations to them.
I think PGY2, so again, you can do other ones again if you want to, or ones that you didn't do in first year. A pretty cool thing about being in Wairoa is that you get a good chance at doing a 6-month ED stint if you want. Can even do an emergency department diploma, and so you can really get some good experience if you're keen on ED stuff. Because there's not many PGY1s, you'll often get at some point in both of your 2 years pretty much what you want out of your four runs each year, which is quite good. Obviously not always in the order that you want, but they're pretty good at trying to slot you in and give you the runs that you do want.
So some of the things about Wairoa Hospital, so being so small, there's no registrars here, which means that it's just you and the consultant. It also means that the consultants are really friendly and approachable and work in partnership with you, and they're never bad about being asked silly questions. There are no silly questions. And yeah, everyone else is really friendly. The senior nurses are amazing. They're also really patient, and no question is a silly question.
I think, and one of the ways I had it described to me from one of the consultants was with the no registrars thing. He described it as, you know, us as PGY1s and 2s have to, or encouraged to step up into a bit of a registrar role, and the consultant also steps down into a registrar role, and you both meet depending on where your level is at. And obviously at the start of the year, I'd often call the consultant for the same questions I'd ask my reg, and they were more than happy to answer. And as the quarter kind of goes on, you start to make more decisions yourself, and you can do more and more things yourself, and you step into that more junior registrar role rather than calling them for everything, which they're more than happy to hear about. Or even text, they're always available by text too. Then you just start to do a wee bit more, and they give you a bit more trust. So I think it's quite a cool way to learn. And you still, well, at least, I've felt very supported. The fact that grill you at all across the phone or anything. They're more than happy to answer the smallest questions. Means that you're actually happy to give them a buzz if you've got a question, and so you can really learn here, which is cool.
So yeah, and in terms of the fact that you're the only junior doctor here, if there's a procedure going on that you want to be involved with and learn how to start doing, most of the consultants are really keen on letting you learn and supporting you through that. So I've done my first lumbar puncture here in Blenheim, and a few of us have done chest drains and stuff. So there's definitely things that the registrar would be doing in a bigger centre that the consultants don't mind teaching you how to do if you're keen and competent.
And if you're keen on a surgical specialty, I think a lot of people think, I've got to go to a big hospital to see everything. But as a house officer, you often get very limited theatre time in a big hospital. Here, there's no regs taking that theatre time, and often you are required in theatre as well. So on ortho, I know one of the guys here is super keen on ortho, and he tries and spends as much time as he can in theatre. And just like being a registrar on the medical ward, the more kind of, I guess, nous you show, the more they'll let you do. So if you're really keen on being a surgeon already at this stage, then a place like Blenheim, Waido means you can get into theatre, start practicing stuff early, and if you're good and you're up for it, the surgeons are more than happy. I've been offered to start, looking at scopes and practicing scopes and things. So it's, they're more than happy to really give you a go, which is cool. And then finally, the lifestyle, I think, is a big part of why I came, at least, as well. It's a great area, depending on what you're into. Outdoors, there's really no limits on what you can do here. Plenty of vineyards as well for a cruisy weekend too. I think we've got a bit more about what we get up to later on, but the average week, if you want to chat about that.
So unlike a big hospital, we do usually get away at 4 most days, which is pretty special, really. Like you'll find in bigger hospitals, it's not uncommon to be there 5, 6, 7 o'clock. You're still getting paid till 4. So you end up working a lot more extra hours. In terms of the requirements, so we do 1 long day a week, and a weekend is about 1 in 4. But if you do a weekend, you're not rostered on for a long day that week. There won't be a long day every week, for example. The teachings, there is predicted teaching that's run via Nelson and Wairo. So we often Zoom in together, and then there's either someone from Nelson or someone from Wairo talking to both teams. And then there's a backup roster. So, and when you're on a long day, you're the only doctor in the hospital. So, the only doctor in the wards. There's doctors and there's SMOs and ED. But you're the only doctor on the wards. So sometimes it can get quite busy, and it can be helpful to have 2 people doing some ward jobs. So that's why there's this volunteer backup roster where about 5 nights a quarter, you put your name down, and if the house surgeon who's on the long day is getting swamped, they can call you in, and you can turn up for a couple of hours, do a couple of admissions or ward jobs, take some of the pressure off the long day house surgeon, and then go back home. You'll always get paid a base rate to be on call, and then you'll get paid for a minimum of 4 hours unless you work more than 4 hours if you get called in which case you get paid for the hours you get called in for.
I think with long days, that's really where you get where Waido is set apart from other bigger places. I think a lot of stuff day to day, if you're doing discharge summaries, other than the odd decision that you can make, it is similar in some respects to a big hospital, but on a long day, it's where it really sets it apart. And that, like Ashton said, it's just you looking after, medicine, surgery, ortho, obs, gynae, peds, but each of the respective SMOs is always on call straight away if you need a hand. But it really allows you to work up a patient, try and figure out what's going on, get to the start of the plan, and then call the boss and say, this is what I've done, this is what I think, what would you recommend, or what do you think of my plan? Or they might just, say something completely different and you go in another direction. But that's where it really, obviously at the start challenges you, and then as you go on, you really feel like you can start to manage patients and manage sick patients a lot sooner and a lot more confidently than I think I would have if I'd gone to a hospital that had registrars, where you'd often have them reviewed by the registrar rather than you working them up yourself. So it can be daunting, but there's really experienced nurses that always have some great ideas, and they appreciate when you start that you're still new to it. So definitely well protected, but also a really good learning opportunity. So you get an orientation week, as Quinn was saying at the start, generally the Tuesday before you start. Do a day over with the Nelson crew, and do some kind of DHB wide stuff, and kind of learning about the ethos of the DHB and what their values are. And then we come back to Waido and do some courses here, and then get shown around the hospital and meet the key people in the key departments that we're going to be interacting with quite a lot. It's quite good to be able to meet those people, because on a day-to-day basis, sometimes rather than say calling radiology, I'll literally just walk down to radiology and discuss with them myself face to face. It's a lot easier to get a job done. It's harder for someone to say no to you if you're standing in front of them. And that small town, small hospital stuff allows you to really chat to someone and ask for what you want face to face, rather than having to call everyone. And I think the biggest thing about working at Waido is everything that you can do outside of the hospital. These are all things we've got up to during the year so far. A couple of us have got some boats that we often take out, get fishing. There's a bunch of hikes real close to the area. And I think often the kind of people that come to a place like Waido are the kind of people that love getting out and about and doing stuff. So there's no shortage of people to be doing things. Again, more bits and pieces. There's social team, social touch team, bit of a social water polo team, but whatever you want to create, there'll be people who are keen for it. So yeah, there's always a good time to be had in the evenings, on the weekends. And so if you're not working, it's definitely a great place to be, especially if you love filling in your spare time. So yeah,
we're pretty lucky here that we've got the ocean 20 minutes down the road with Queen Charlotte Sound and the sounds in general, and then we've also got so many mountain ranges right up behind us. Nelson Lakes is right there as well, some amazing national parks, and we do actually have a mini ski field, despite being one of the sunniest parts of the country as well. So there's definitely a lot to do. You almost get more tired outside of work than you do at work.
Yeah, so definitely. If you're keen on this kind of stuff, it's definitely the place to be.
I think that's us.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Would recommend. Definitely think that Waido's a great place.
One of the questions here, Loretta, did we just answer that? Do you interview for each of Wairau or Nelson?
Nice.
Yeah, if anyone's wanting an interview, so they just email me and I can organise that with either at Blenheim or Nelson, or both. Yep.
There's no Survey Monkey link or anything else like that. It's just standard and just get in contact with you directly, yeah?
Yes, we do face-to-face or Zoom interview. Yep.
How open are the consultants to being called on overnight if it's something you think you need help with? Obviously, we don't start nights till halfway through the year, so neither of us have actually done nights yet. I think with the long day experience, by the time you get on to doing nights at 6 months, you've done a lot of long days, and you'll be at the point where you'll know if you need to call the consultant, and they'll be more than happy to answer that phone call. It's, a lot of consultants will always be called overnight, and they know that that's just part of what they sign up for when they choose to work as consultants at Waido. So by the time you develop your kind of patient management skills in your long days in the first 6 months, once you get someone that you can't manage overnight, the consultant will be more than happy to hear about it and to give you some advice.
Yeah, and from the experience on long days, the consultants are more than happy to hear from you when you've got something that you feel you're out of your depth. Even if it's just to provide advice over the phone and say what you're doing is right, maybe do this in addition. And yeah, I've never had any bad experiences where someone said you shouldn't have called me. And yeah, from what I've heard from the people that have started nights, no issues there either in terms of calling consultants and then getting ratty that you work them up. They'd sooner rather be called, and this is fairly generic, I suppose, but the house surgeon they worry about is the one that doesn't call them when they know they have a sick patient, rather than the other way around. But yeah, I think it's true. They don't mind being called.
Right. There's a question, this will be for you, Loretta. Given the low number of PGY1 roles, I think there's 5, do you take couples or do you take paired applications via ACE?
Yes, we do take couples, and also with couples we normally roster them on the same weekends so that they can have other weekends that they can go away. And we have a lot of couples from overseas, so it's just a matter of doing clever rostering, that's all.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you don't roster them separately in the weekends so they can weekend to themselves.
Some time apart. No. Often people ask about the food. Everyone always says, "Oh, what's the food like?" I don't think the food here is quite up to Nelson standard. Apparently, Nelson has the best food in all of the DHB land, but it's sufficient. I enjoy the food. I think people are more picky than what I am, but you know, there's sushi on a Wednesday and fish on a Friday and sandwiches and wraps and paninis and stuff in between. So yeah, the food is sufficient and the food is good enough.
And actually something that's quite unique to Wairau, and I think Nelson as well, is that we actually get a coffee as well a day. So that is quite good. So you go and have your coffee break, you don't have to pay for your coffee.
Yeah, how do you hire from the talent pool?
Well, how often do you?
Yeah. We have hired from the talent pool before, but we don't normally we fill all our ACE positions. So it's not normally till middle or later in the year that we might take someone from the talent pool.
The hospital has 3 houses, I think 3 2 or 3 bedroom houses that, from what I gather, often have some or a room available. So you can always flick once you get accepted, if you come here, you can flick a message to Loretta and stay in one of the hospital accommodation houses. I think it's rather, rentals are rather sparse here, I think. I know I just kind of assumed small town, there'd be some, easygoing, cheap rentals, but there's quite a migrant population that come in for fruit picking and stuff like that. So I think rentals can be hard to come by. So it would be something that if you came here, would be good to get onto sooner rather than later, to try and find a place, because, it can be, from what I've heard, rather difficult. Yeah.
No one's homeless currently. So.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Loretta would make quite an effort to get people who need a house into a house. I know I had one of the guys from the hospital had nowhere to be when he was here, and she managed to get him into one of the hospital accommodations. So yeah, there's definitely places to stay.
And often some of the staff will have places with a spare room as well that they're happy to rent out as well for a year or however long you're here as well.
Another question here is, are you less likely to be considered if you haven't completed a placement in the Nelson area by any chance? So that's your selection criteria.
No, definitely not. I think in your cover letter, if you just outline why you'd like to come to this region, top of the south,
I don't think I didn't do a single placement in Nelson Marlborough and got in here. So yeah, I agree with Loretta.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a good evening, and for everyone watching online, all the best of luck with your applications this year.